At this time, I would like to introduce our keynote speaker, Sheriff Mike Ensminger of Teller County. Sheriff Mike Ensminger has lived in the Colorado Springs, Teller County area since June of 1987. After spending several years serving the county of San Diego in law enforcement capacity, he retired from the San Diego County Sheriff's Office in 1987. Sheriff Ensminger was hired as a professor of criminal justice in 1988, where he educated and trained thousands of men and women during his tenure at Pikes Peak Community College. He retired from teaching in September of 2010. He graduated from Colorado Christian University in 1995 with a BS degree in Organizational Management and Human Resources. He is married to his wonderful wife, Maria, and now resides in the lovely community of Florissant, Colorado. He was elected as Teller County Sheriff in 2010 and has been appointed by the governor and currently serves on the Child Fatality Review Board for the state of Colorado and has been appointed as a board member for the County Sheriffs of Colorado. Sheriff Ensminger is also the chairman for the Advisory Committee Board for the Pikes Peak Community College Regional Police Academy and their post-secondary degree program. As Sheriff of Teller County, Mike has been exhaustingly instrumental in his fight in support of the constitutional rights for all citizens, and especially for the citizens of Teller County. He has relentlessly represented the voice of Teller County citizens in front of the Colorado legislature and has spoken numerous times on national radio talk shows in support of our Second Amendment rights to bear arms. Sheriff Ensminger.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, today is a celebration that involves men and women in uniform who for 8, 10, or sometimes 12 hours a day respond to radio calls that have in some cases gone seriously wrong. In some instances, they have made the extreme sacrifice, and that signifies their end of shift prematurely and sadly permanently. LAPD's Deputy Chief retired Bob Vernon once described law enforcement officers see people at their worst on a regular basis. Exposures to the extremes of life, for example, a death notification to the parents of a young child, or even being involved in an altercation themselves. Not many people, once they're out of their teen years, get involved in physical fights anymore. Cops see altercations frequently. Even people coming up and yelling at you is not a common occurrence for the average citizen. Again, our beloved police officers and deputy sheriffs deal with this environment on a daily basis. You will never hear a complaint when an officer or a deputy has to respond to a shots fired, man down call, or those sleepless nights trying to resolve a murder, rape, or molestation. If you look close, you may see that teardrop fall when a fallen comrade has gone down. However, just as importantly, you will not see any hesitation in that officer or deputy stepping back into their patrol car for their next shift. Ladies and gentlemen, these are our heroes who accomplish something extraordinary on a daily basis. According to Peter Gibbon, heroes show moral valor, especially in adversity. And they are great souls who lift us up through their high-minded, noble examples. The heroes who work for me, and those who are able to be here today, and those who are no longer with us know that it is their sworn duty to serve with dignity, honor, and respect. Many an author has tried to describe the duty, service, and courage of our officers, but none has done it better than Police Reserve Officer and Hollywood star actor Jack Webb when he said this: "It is awkward having a policeman around the house, friends drop in, a man with a badge answers the door and the temperature drops 20 degrees. You throw a party and that badge gets in the way. All of a sudden, there isn't a straight man in the crowd. Everybody's a comedian. Drink too much, somebody says, or the man with a badge will run you in. How's it going, Dick Tracy? How many jaywalkers did you arrest today?" And then there's always the one who wants to know how many apples you you took from the grocery store. All at once, you lost your first name. You're a cop, a bully, a Dick Tracy, or a John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, your poison, your trouble, your bad news. They call you everything other than a policeman. It's not so much of a life unless you don't mind missing a championship game because the phone rings, unless you like working Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays at a job that doesn't pay much overtime. Oh, the pay is adequate. If you count your pennies, you can put your child through college. But you better plan on seeing Europe on your television set. And then there's your first night on the beat when you try to arrest a drunk in a Main Street bar and he rips your uniform to shreds. You'll buy another one out of your own pocket. And you're going to rub elbows with the criminal element, those who keep an address and those who don't care. Liars, cheats, and con men, the class of Skid Row. And the heartbreak, underfed kids, the beaten kids, homeless kids, dying kids and dead kids. The old people nobody wants, the relievers, the pensioners, the ones who walk the street cold, and those who try to keep warm and died in a $3 room with an unventilated gas heater. You'll patrol your beat, and you'll try to pick up the pieces. Do you have real adventure in your soul? You better have, because you're going to do time in a patrol car. Oh, it's going to be a thrill a minute when you get an unknown trouble call and hit a backyard at 2 in the morning, never knowing who you'll meet. A man with a knife, a person high on drugs with a gun, or 2 ex-cons with nothing to lose. And you're going to have plenty of time to think. You'll draw duty in a lonely patrol car with nobody to talk to but your radio. 4 years in a uniform and you'll have the ability, the experience, and maybe the desire to be a detective. If you like to fly by the seat of your pants, this is where you belong. For every crime that's committed, you got 3 million suspects to choose from. And most of the time, you'll have a few facts and a lot of hunches. You'll run down leads that dead end on you. You'll work all-night stakeouts that could last a week. You'll do legwork until you're sure you've talked to everybody in the state. People who saw it happen but really didn't. People who insist they did but really didn't. People who don't remember. Those who try to forget. Those who tell the truth. Those that lie. You'll run files until your eyes ache. You'll learn to live with doubt, anxiety, and frustration, court decisions that tend to hinder rather than help you. You'll learn to live with the district attorney testifying in court, defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, judges, juries, and witnesses. And sometimes you're not going to be happy with the outcome. But there's also this. There are literally thousands of men and women in our country who know that being a police officer or a deputy sheriff is an endless, glamorous, thankless job that's got to be done. I know it too, and I'm darn glad to be one of them. I mentioned earlier today, this is a day of celebration because the men and women honored here did not die in vain. These men and women chose an occupation with the full knowledge of the potential consequences that may lie ahead. Today we know that in 2014 there were 125 police officers who lost their life in the line of duty. We know that out of those 125, 121 were men and 4 were women. We know that the average of our fallen was 40 years old. We know that the average tour of duty was 12 years and 4 months. We know that in comparison to military deaths, we exceed them by 50 deaths. Although this is no competition with our honorable military personnel, these are just the stark realities of the casualties at home. To the family members of our fallen, I want to say God bless you and thank you for being here today. I know there are many antidotes for your grieving process, and that grief is unintelligible to most of us. Jack and Phyllis Poe, chaplains of the Oklahoma City Police Department, listed for you some positive actions that may be helpful to you. Focus on those things you can change and not on the things you can't change. Overcome helplessness by setting new, achievable goals. Forgive. When you do so repeatedly and consistently, you expel the bitterness that remains. Acknowledge and let go of anger appropriately. Success comes in cans, not can'ts. Persevere. Reach out. Kindness is something you can never give away because it always comes back. Rebuild trust by confiding in others. Only that which is mentionable is manageable. You cannot not communicate. What you don't say says volumes. Don't waste a crisis. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Growth is the best defense against burnout. Life is a balancing act between emotion and reason. Find constructive ways of releasing strong emotions. This is the first step of recovery. Maintain a sense of humor. Life isn't fair. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find meaning to suffering. Let go and let God. Love always outdoes evil, and darkness can never put out the light. We come here with a prayer in our hearts, but with tears in our eyes. But with no tears, there'd be no rainbows in our hearts. Within the 4th Judicial District, we have a collaborative presence of law enforcement, which is by far the most professional that this region has ever seen. We collectively stand before you as your humble public servant leaders. We will stand in front of you when trouble comes your way. We will cry with you when the hurtful ways of life draw you victim. We will rejoice with you when the battles are won. And if we experience that, no greater love is when a man or woman lays down their life for another. We will rejoice together that it was done with dedication to the citizens within our jurisdiction, with dignity, honor, and respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, so much.